tuned in to watch this with Eryk and Brandon, the show where we make a friend watch a movie or TV show they've never seen before. What do they think? Is their opinion the same as yours? That's what we find out. And today, we are going to be discussing The Jerk. Brandon and I recently watched this movie. I've seen it a million times. Brandon just watched it for the first time, so what does he think of it? That's what we'll find out. Also, we'll get my reaction as somebody who's seen it a million times. Favorite scenes, favorite characters. Is it woke? We'll talk about that.
Out.
Also, how does Steve Martin's Naven Johnson rank among the greatest and funniest characters from movies and TV shows? We're going to discuss that a little bit as well. And I just want to throw this out before we get going. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen The Jerk before, watch it. It's hilarious, and we'll always be here, so you can come back and see if your opinion is the same as ours. So why don't we get a little background?
Yeah, let's start with the background. So it's a 1979 movie directed by Carl Reiner. It was written by Steve Martin, Carl Gottlieb, and Michael Elias, maybe? Elias. It was Steve Martin's first starring role in a feature film, and Bernadette Peters was in it, Emmett Walsh, and Jackie Mason. So by 1977, Steve Martin was having big success as a comedian.
Huge stand-up comedian.
And he wanted to cross over into movies, I guess. Yeah. You know, that's the common route that a lot of these comedians like to go.
And he thought that maybe his stand-up career wouldn't last forever, and maybe if he was in movies, he would have a little bit more longevity.
Mm-hmm.
And
things worked out pretty well for him.
Yeah, I think so.
So he based the film proposal when he brought it to the studios on his act. It started out, it wasn't always easy for me. I was born a poor black child, and that's how the movie starts out. And he worked his ideas into a bunch of the notes for the studios. He brought them to Paramount first, who originally turned him down, and then went to Universal, and they gave it the green light. And
he actually got to choose the director for the movie, which is really cool. And he chose the great Carl Reiner, who was, of course, one of the creators of the Dick Van Dyke Show and all these great things. So Carl directed it, and what an incredible job he did as well.
And they said that it was a box office hit. I mean, it was, for the time, earning over $73 million, so pretty good.
And what was the budget?
1979. It was a $4 million budget. Okay. So, and then the movie itself made $100 million worldwide, too. So.
Very big success.
And Rotten Tomatoes gave it an approval rating of 83%, so pretty high, fresh, based on 35 reviews, and there's an average of about 6.6 out of 10. So
okay, pretty cool. And I just want to throw in one more thing. Steve Martin released a book back in 2007, which I've read, and you could borrow the book if you want, because it's a great read. It's called Born Standing Up. It's kind of a memoir, and he was talking about The Jerk in that book, and he said that his favorite scene was the scene where he and Bernadette Peters are singing that song on the beach, the song "Tonight You Belong With Me."
Right, he's playing the ukulele
and all that.
She plays the horn.
That's right. And he loved that scene. He's a very musical guy, plays the banjo and everything, right? So he loves music. So he loved that scene and thought, oh, people are going to really love it. And so he went to a screening somewhere. I think he said St. Louis. And he said that was the moment when everybody got up and went and got popcorn.
And it's funny you say St. Louis, because that's where he goes at the start of the movie. He wants to go to St. Louis.
So maybe that's why he chose
it on the radio station. Yeah.
But so I thought that was pretty funny.
That's funny.
So, Brandon, you didn't know anything about this movie, really.
No, you had raved about it and said how funny it was. And originally, because it's called The Jerk, I thought it had something to do with him being a jerk. I really did. I thought he was like, not a good guy. I mean, maybe he was a mean person or something who would follow his antics in a funny way. Okay. That's what I thought. And you hear the name Jerk and you automatically think he's bad. But turns out he's really not. He's just kind of a goofball.
He's an idiot.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was sort of your prediction going in. So what did you think of the movie?
So one thing I noticed right off the bat, because I haven't watched a lot of Steve Martin, but he's so much of a physical actor. The way he is just over the top. The opening scene when he's trying to keep the beat, you can see him. He's using his whole body. He's moving all awkwardly.
His family's singing the blues on the front porch, and everybody's getting into it, and he just can't keep rhythm with them.
And then we mentioned St. Louis, when he finds his rhythm listening to the St. Louis radio station. And again, his feet start moving. He starts snapping his fingers, and he's just kind of all over the place. And he really pulls it off. The way he does that. And there are scenes throughout the movie when he's using his whole body, and it just works for him. The longer you watch the movie, you really start to figure out that he's just truly an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, he's just like, at first you're like, okay, well, maybe he's a little dumb, but then no, he's stupid. Like, it almost reminds me of Jim Carrey's character in Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah,
same idea, right?
Actually, now that you say that, it's very similar.
It's very similar because it's the same thing. what's his, Jim Carrey. He's foolish, and Jeff Daniels too. They're both
characters with the best of intentions that are just so dumb.
Yeah, and we'll talk about Dumb and Dumber a little bit later on when we talk about our favorite characters. The story itself, I didn't think was too complex. I mean, the guy decides he wants to head out to into the world to check it out. He works some odd jobs. He strikes it rich, then loses it all, and then his family bails him out. Right. Didn't matter though, because all the stuff in between was funny. It was an entertaining movie, and overall I enjoyed it. I laughed. Would I say it's one of my favorite comedies? Probably not, but I would say that it needs to be seen to appreciate the what is Steve Martin.
Is there any reason why? I mean, look. Obviously, comedy's subjective, but like, what is one of the reasons why you wouldn't rank it among your favorites? Is it just that it's an older comedy?
Yeah, maybe because it's older. Maybe because you know what? I don't really have a specific answer to that.
There's just other things you think are funny.
Yeah, there's just other movies that I think are more funny. I mean, it's a different type of comedy, I guess, than some of the other ones that I like. Like we've talked about Superbad, we've talked about American Pie. Like I think Superbad to me is a funnier movie than The Jerk.
Yeah.
That's my opinion, but you know,
certainly a different style of comedy.
Yeah,
less
different. I think it's the style.
And,
I think that's probably the biggest thing. Yeah.
Okay, very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so my reaction. I mean, this is a movie I saw at a very young age. My parents made sure I watched this one because they're like, you have to see it.
Yeah.
It's hilarious, and so I've been watching it for years and years and years, and I don't think there'll come a time when I don't think it's a hilarious movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I was laughing.
Yeah, you're still
when
laughing.
we were watching
it a bunch of times.
Yeah, I've seen it many, many times, and I think Steve Martin is just one of the funniest people of all time. I mean, you talked about his physical comedy. I mean, you got to think he was a stand-up comedian.
Yeah,
doing his first movie, and he's doing all this physical stuff and all that. I mean, stand-up comedians tell jokes.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, there's a lot of witty writing in this, and he was one of the writers, as we pointed out earlier, and he was working with one of the funniest people ever, and Carl Reiner as the director of the movie, but it's just the way he blended those stupid jokes and stupid lines with this, like, just ridiculous, over-the-top slapstick style of comedy is just so perfect for me. Such a perfect blend. It doesn't surprise me at all that the premise for the movie came from his stand-up, right? I mean, I could almost,
well, how many
him,
shows and movies are based on, like, look at Seinfeld, right?
True.
The show is based on his act, too. And
no, it's true. And it's just such a ridiculous line, and so I have no trouble believing that he used to say that on stage during his stand-up acts. And, it's just... It's so amazing that for a movie with all the physical gags that are in it, like there's so many times in the movie where you're laughing because they're doing something funny as opposed to saying something funny.
The writing, or
and
saying
yet
something.
We could quote it all day long, and I do.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know, it's such a perfect blend to me of funny, physical, slapstick comedy and witty writing. Even though the jokes are dumb, they're still written
There's
just
something
so
about it,
well, so clever. And so I absolutely love it. And I think the plot is perfect for this kind of movie. I mean, you mentioned it's such a simple plot, and it really is, and it just came to him from his stand-up, right? A stupid joke that he had written about how he was born a poor black child. But it's just such a funny concept, especially because of Steve Martin and how he looks. I mean, he's the whitest human being. His hair, I mean, this was 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And his hair was like white back then.
He's
just the whitest person in the world, and so it's just so funny that he was playing that character, and it's just it's just so great. I mean, I really.
Would you rank it as your favorite comedy ever?
I don't know if it would be my all-time favorite.
Yeah.
It's one of them.
Okay.
It's up there with some of my favorites of all time. I would put Caddyshack up there. I'd put a few others. But for me, I mean, just from how old I was when I first saw it and the fact that I've been watching it all these years and still love it, I would definitely have to rank it at least in my top 5.
Yeah, I was going to say top 5. Okay.
Top 5 favorite comedies. We'll talk about if it's woke a little bit later, and I think my only issue with the movie will come up during that segment. But really, I just think it's such a perfect comedy movie because it's equal parts ridiculous, witty, and great comedy performances all around.
Yeah.
I mean, not just Steve Martin, and we'll also be talking about our favorite characters a little bit later on as well. But anyway, my reaction as somebody who's seen it a million times, I absolutely love it. I'll continue to watch it and continue to laugh at it. That is for sure.
All right, so now let's talk about some of our favorite comedy characters in movies or TV shows.
Okay.
So, do you you want to start off, or you want me to go?
I'll get the ball rolling because my first one is Steve Martin as Nathan Johnson in The Jerk.
So that's your favorite,
yeah. This character is one of the funniest comedy characters of all time for reasons I've laid out, because it gives Steve Martin an opportunity to say funny things and do funny things, and just the concept behind it is just so funny. So he's one of my favorites, Nathan Johnson. That's for sure.
I've got I mentioned Jim Carrey as Lloyd Christmas in Dumb and Dumber. I mean, the same idea. He's it reminds me the most of Nathan. Like, there's no. Yep. It's almost exactly the same when you think about it. Just how dumb he really is. Yeah. And, the entire movie of Dumb and Dumber, I mean, there's just so many stupid things that they do throughout. And that just, it reminded me right away. And that was the first one I thought of.
And maybe this is a thing that not a lot of people would agree with. I think there's a lot of similarities between Jim Carrey and Steve Martin.
Because they're physical actors.
They're both physical, and they both say really funny, like they both have witty lines. Like one of the movies we talked about was Ace Ventura, and he was Jim Carrey was one of the writers on that. Right when he joined the movie, they agreed to let him write a lot of the stuff.
So it shows you that these guys aren't that different.
Oh yeah, I think they're pretty similar in terms of their physical comedy and the fact that they can write really funny material as well. So my next one is Will Ferrell as Chaz Reinhold in Wedding Crashers.
Oh yeah.
Now you talk about short screen time and maximum amount of funny in just really a short period of time. Yeah. Oh my God. Like, what was he in for, like 5 minutes maybe in the whole movie?
Yeah.
And everything he says is hilarious in that scene. Like, I almost just nunchucked you right now. You don't even know. Like, I mean, it's just so stupid and just so funny, and yelling about the meatloaf and all this stuff. And oh my God. Like, I think minimum amount of time, most comedy shoved into 5 minutes.
One scene,
I think that's one of the best of all time.
I've got Borat, Sacha Baron Cohen. You've seen Borat, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Just the stuff that he does throughout the movie. And I mean, the fact that I think a lot of the people didn't even realize that he was an actor, and when he goes to the driving school, when he's at the dinner with the socialites, just all the stuff that he does. Well, at the when they're going through the hotel room naked with him and his assistant or whatever, like that, I laughed so hard at that scene, because like these guys burst into a room naked, fighting each other, and all these people are around and they're just shocked, and to me that's hilarious.
And actually, I don't know when people are going to be watching this, but we found out this week or maybe last week that Pamela Anderson announced that her marriage
to Kid Rock
was stemmed because of this movie, and she was actually in on it.
Yeah,
she was one of the few people who
knew,
were.
and that scene itself was funny too. He puts the bag over her head, he tries to kidnap her, like just hilarious stuff. That's one of my favorites.
And it's unfortunate that the marriage of Pamela Anderson and Kid Rock did not work out.
Shame.
Yeah, that's right. Matt Dillon as Healy in Something About Mary.
Oh yeah, good choice.
Such a slimy, greasy guy,
ball.
And just so funny. I think that might be in my top 5 as well. We were talking about top 5 comedies
for movies. Oh, that was
There's
a great
Something About
movie.
Mary.
Yeah.
One of the funniest, as far as I'm concerned, and I think he's the funniest character in the movie. As funny as Ben Stiller is, as funny as who is it? Chris Elliott. As funny as he is,
Woogie or Oogie.
Yeah, exactly. I just think Matt Dillon, so many of the lines he says in there, which are not politically correct at all, but just so funny. He is one of my all-time favorites. Like, everything he says pretty much makes me laugh, and those fake teeth that he has and all that kind of stuff, just ridiculous.
I've got Robin Williams as Daniel Hillard and Mrs. Doubtfire.
Oh, okay.
So, growing up, that was another one of my favorite movies. Robin Williams, one of the best comedians out there, and so many different scenes in that movie. The one that sticks out to me is when he's making the phone calls. He changes the phone number on the ad so she doesn't get any phone calls. And then he starts to call, and he's doing all these different characters and just the different, like, get back in your cell, don't make me get the hose. And, and Sally Field's just like, oh my God, what have I got myself into? And and he pulls off Mrs. Doubtfire. Like, you would never know that he's a guy. He looks like an old nanny, and that was another one for me.
So, Well, Bill Hader as Stefan on Saturday Night Live. This is a very recent one, and I'm a Saturday Night Live junkie. I know you are as well. You love Saturday Night Live, and I've been watching it since I was a kid, and I used to get all the compilations, best of all these people. So I've been watching it forever, and to me, the best character they've had in the last, probably a decade or so of the show is Stefan.
Yeah,
Bill Hader.
Offensively funny.
So funny.
It's the stuff that he says.
I mean, John Mulaney and Bill Hader are two of the funniest people around. Geniuses. And the fact that they were writing this, and the character was such a perfect vehicle for just creative and ridiculous material. And because he's such a ridiculous person, Stefan, right? And so, like, they can make him say anything.
Just
and
over
it's
the
just
top.
So
and didn't
funny.
John Mulaney used to write stuff into the script?
Yeah, so this is a
he
story
didn't know about, right?
that they've told over and over again, is that at the last minute, like in between the dress rehearsal and the actual live show, he would like switch a word on a joke or something, or like switch the end of a joke, and that's why Bill Hader would do his iconic laughing, covering his mouth. Yeah, exactly. And so in the last decade or so of SNL, to me, that's the funniest character, and they've had so many great characters over the years. Sure. I'm sure you'll be mentioning some of those.
Oh yeah,
as
for
well.
sure. Gaylord Fokker in Meet the Parents. Ben Stiller. Again, we mentioned him in Something About Mary. Along Came Polly. He's been in so many funny movies. Tropic Thunder.
Right.
Like, the guy's funny. He's high-strung in the movie, and he's trying to get approval from the father-in-law, from De Niro, and everything that can go wrong for him goes wrong. You think about the scene where they're sitting at the table, and he says, "Oh yeah, you can milk anything with nipples." And De Niro goes, "Well, I have nipples, Greg. Can you milk me?" Like, hilarious. Like, I remember that line.
Maybe one of the most perfect straight men of all time in the movie. Robert De Niro. Another character I love from that movie, just honorable mention here, is Owen Wilson's character.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
They're playing volleyball in the pool.
It's so funny.
Next for you.
Next, so this is kind of like 2 in 1 here.
Okay.
Steve Carell as Michael Scott and Ricky Gervais as David Brent in The Office. United States and UK, respectively. The characters, the concept of the characters is essentially the same. They're the boss, like the general manager, the regional manager at a paper company.
Yeah.
But the characters are subtly different. Like, Michael Scott is more stupid and not self-aware, whereas David Brent is more of like a jackass, just a jerk kind of, like a jackass, maybe a little bit more self-aware, yet still just completely ridiculous. And I think they're just so funny. Those are characters who can make you cringe so hard, both of them. Like, it's just like you're watching, you just go, "Oh my god, I can't believe they're doing."
See, I'm not familiar with I know of it, but I've never, to be honest, I don't think I've watched one episode of it.
I'm just going to give you a little one scene in particular, so you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say cringe. Michael Scott, Steve Carell, in the American version of The Office, at one point had promised a group of young inner city students that he would be paying for their college tuition one day, because he assumed that he would be a millionaire. Time comes that they are graduating from high school. He can't afford to pay for it. So he has to tell a group of high school students who have prepared songs for him, who have done all this stuff celebrating him, that he can't pay their tuition. Oh my gosh. Right. Oh my god. It's just absolutely ridiculous. It just makes you go, "Oh no." And so, and Ricky Gervais as David Brent had moments like that as well that just make you go, "Oh, just stop. Stop. But so funny. I absolutely love both of those shows, the American and British versions of The Office.
All right. I've got Chris Farley is my next one. Matt Foley, motivational speaker.
Yeah.
And we all know the line, "I live in a van down by the river." That scene that he did with David Spade and Christina Applegate is one of the best SNL skits ever. As far as I'm concerned.
Agree.
David Spade can barely keep it together. He's covered his mouth the whole time. And Chris Farley is Chris Farley. He's over the top.
When he gets right up in David Spade's face and says, "Sounds like you're using your papers not for writing, but for rolling doobies." movies. And just so funny.
And he's like hiking up his pants, and then he falls down on the table. Like Chris Farley, any of his characters that he did, but that one, Matt Foley, stood out the most for me.
So brilliant. My final one here is Melissa McCarthy as Megan in Bridesmaids.
Yeah.
So this was a movie that I absolutely loved when it came out. I don't think I'd ever seen Melissa McCarthy in a movie before, and maybe
I
that's
think that was the one that was
her
kind of a breakthrough role for her.
I think so.
It? Yeah.
And oh my God,
she was outrageous.
Oh yes, everything she says is funny. Some of the things she does is just hilarious. I mean, another great combination of saying funny things and being very physical as well, and just so brilliant. And so, and I've seen her in several movies. I've seen her on SNL a few times since then. She always kills on
Sean
Saturday
Spicer,
Night Live.
Sean Spicer. Oh man, those are some great skits.
Those are great. When she was the pizza lady on SNL and all this kind of stuff. She is hilarious, and that was the first time that I'd seen her in a movie, and just one of my favorite characters of all time. So,
all right, my last one is a kind of a double, like you did with The Office. There, Wayne and Garth.
Okay,
Wayne's World, Saturday Night Live. Again, I grew up in the '90s watching SNL, and it was always they were on quite they were on all the time. And then the movie came out, and that was it's funny. It's just off topic, but when that movie first came out, I heard Bohemian Rhapsody for the first time.
Really?
Yeah, that was the first time I heard that song.
Fun
when
fact
they were in the car
about that scene. Dana Carvey wasn't familiar with the song.
No, he wasn't, eh?
And so if you rewatch it, and this is a little Easter egg for anybody who's seen The Wayne's World, watch the scene where they're singing Bohemian Rhapsody in the car, and they show Garth, and he's singing along.
And
he is not singing along to the song. He has no idea what the words are. And so that's kind of funny, because he's a music guy.
Yeah.
Like you would think if anybody knew. But that song, I believe, re-entered the charts after that movie.
And then it became...
I think there was a period where Wayne's World was the highest-grossing comedy of all time.
Oh, was it?
I believe so. I think The Hangover has by far surpassed that.
Now,
it's probably made $1 billion, The Hangover. but I think there was a time, and I mean, just so funny, and it was at a time when those SNL movies were just
they were pumping them out like everything. There were so many of them. Okay, so there's our comedy characters, and we're going to move on to our favorite scenes now.
All right, from the jerk, getting back to the jerk here. So I think this is more funny moments and funny lines and everything, maybe, than funny scenes. I mean, the one
throughout it almost each part had its own part of the story, right? Because he's moving from place to place, job to job. So it was
just ridiculous, just absolutely ridiculous. So I'm going to start with one of the most iconic ones, and one of the ones that people remember. And whenever they show montages from the movie, this is always in it. He hates these cans. When the guy is trying to shoot him, the madman just picks his name randomly out of the phone book.
Yeah, he's so excited to have his name in the phone book.
He was so excited that he became somebody. He has his name in print. His name is in the phone book, and a random guy picks his name out and decides he wants to assassinate him. And he's shooting at him, and he hates these cans because, oh my God, that's just, again, perfect display of the physical comedy of him reacting to the cans, and just such a dumb dialogue. I love it so much.
I like when he first goes to I guess it's St. Louis, and he gets in the hotel room and the dog's barking at the door. And he's trying to decipher what the dogs say. What is it, boy? What is it? There's a fire. And then so he gets up and causes all kinds of chaos, knocking on everybody's door, eventually evacuates the hotel only to find out that there was no fire. So I thought that was pretty funny. Because he thought the dog told him there was a fire. Like, come on.
Hilarious. I like when his family, who adopted him, reveals for the first time at his birthday that he was, in fact, adopted. And his reaction is, "You mean I'm going to stay this color?" That is so funny. I mean, again, just... the brilliance of that joke that kicked off this whole concept, the "I was born a poor black child," in that moment, it just perfectly delivers as far as I'm concerned.
I liked when, this is probably, of the whole movie, this was my favorite part, when his first boss at the gas station, Jackie Mason, I think that was who it was, says he's got a place for him to stay. So he takes him into the bathroom where there's another door, but right away Steve Martin thinks that he's going to be living in the bathroom. And like he's talking about all the things that he could do, like, oh, I could put a shelf up here.
That's right.
I could knock out this and have like an open concept. And
That's
it's just
right.
in a little tiny
I could
bathroom.
move this wall here and have a flow, and just so funny.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous.
But then he brings him into the storage closet and says, "No, this isn't it. This is where you're going to live." He goes, "This is perfect. I don't have to change a thing." Oh my god, just so dumb. I like speaking earlier. I was talking about the little quip from his book where he said that his favorite scene was them singing on the beach. So when she plays her trumpet solo, and he tells her, I had this fantasy that I could go through the horn and through these pipes and into these valves and come out and give you a kiss. And she says, "Why didn't you?" "I didn't want to get spit on." Oh my god, just so perfect.
The dialogue back and forth, and they had a really good dialogue. Those two together.
What a great performance from both of them.
Yeah. The reading of the letter when Marie decides that she's going to leave him. He's in the tub, and she writes it all out, and she slides it under the door, and sure enough, it gets covered in water, and it gets all blurry. So he's reading through it, and he's like, and then, but he figures it out. He figures out what she's saying, jumps out of the tub, runs out of the house naked. He's got one dog here. He picks up the neighbor's dog, who's walking the dog outside, covers his front. Just absolutely ridiculous.
Oh, yeah, just hilarious. Yeah, just him reading that letter. Just, again, so stupid. I like when when they're on their first date, and she tells him that she is a cosmetologist. And he says, "A cosmetologist? Wow. I don't know how you can handle the weightlessness."
What does that mean? You said you thought maybe cosmonaut.
Right. It might be, maybe that's what he was thinking, but I would love to know exactly what he thought a cosmetologist was. That his first thought was, "I can't believe you can handle the weightlessness." Just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Finally, for me, at the end of the movie, when he's leaving Marie, he doesn't need anything except this and this. And he picks up the paddle ball. He needs a paddle ball game and a chair. I need these matches. But I don't need anything else. Well, I need this chair.
I just love that. And I don't need anything else. I need this. And he picks up a chair. Oh, my God. Just so dumb. I've got a few more, if that's okay. So when he strikes it rich and he's talking about all the things he wants in his mansion and how everything is something that he used to talk about wanting.
Remember when I used to talk about this?
I love my favorite one out of all that whole sequence is, remember when I used to chit-chat with Dad about wanting a hot tub shaped like a clam, and he's got
and they're
one.
showing all these things.
Remember when I used to want a billiards room covered in red curtains or whatever? It's just like so ridiculous. So that's great. I love Mrs. Nussbaum's credit card. That whole sequence where those three guys stole the credit card, and he's trying to keep them there, so he hooks their car to a church, and they try to drive away, and they pull the church apart and start dragging it, and he's calling the police. It's a blue 2-door Chevy. I didn't get the license plate number, but it's towing a small church. So that would be any 2-door blue Chevy that's pulling a small church. That'd probably be it. Yeah, that's hilarious. And then my final one here is he starts having a sexual relationship. He finds his special purpose with the woman he works with Patty at the carnival. And she gets his name tattooed on her ass. And we mentioned that he was so excited about seeing his name in the phone book earlier. Well, he said, "Look at that. My name is on your ass. I bet more people see that than the phone book." And so that was really funny as well. So anyway, we could go on for another 20 minutes about the funny stuff in this movie. But we'll end it there. How about favorite characters?
Yeah, I mean, it's Nathan Johnson. Obviously, is the favorite character. I mean, we've gone through all the stuff that we loved about him, and there's no other characters in the movie that stand out the way he did. I mean, the other people kind of have small roles, right? I mean, but the one thing we talked about, Patty, she was kind of funny, actually, because she was like so over the top and kind of this butchy, rough chick that that kind of tells him what to do and sort of thing. But that's for me, anyways. That was funny. The one.
I liked Mr. Hartoonian, Jackie Mason. I mean, he has some funny lines throughout the whole thing. When he's talking about his wife,
telling him that if he messes things up, he loses
he's doing the whole
sex with his wife. Yeah.
Whatever, and doing all this kind of stuff. And that was really funny. I like Emmett Walsh as the madman who just picks his name out, just random typical bastard, in the
and
phone
then he
book
turns
or whatever.
into this private investigator that ends up because I guess it was Marie that hired him.
No. It was the guy.
The guy that
with
made
the
glasses,
the
right?
optograph.
Yeah. And actually, now that he's mentioned those glasses, when Carl Reiner comes on and he's cross-eyed, that's another scene that's funny. And ends up suing him. He's getting this multi-million-dollar lawsuit because everybody's got cross-eyed.
He loses the lawsuit and he has to write out the checks to each person.
$1.09 or something.
$1.09. It's just so funny. This movie's brilliant. Okay, so is it woke?
Is it woke? For the most part, I think it is. It's playful.
Well, see, this is the thing. I don't know if I'd call it woke because I don't know if it brings attention to any issues necessarily. I think this concept of a white kid being adopted by a black family and then going out into the world and realizing that black people aren't treated the same way as white people, I think that would be if it was a drama, a brilliant woke movie or whatever. It's a ridiculous comedy movie. So I think, yes, the stereotypes that they use in this movie, and they do use ethnic stereotypes about white people and black people.
Yeah.
And, I mean, on his birthday, his mother brings him his favorite meal of a tab, 2 Twinkies, and tuna with mayonnaise on white bread, and and all that. Yeah. Which I think it
sounds like the whitest thing ever, right?
And so it's just, I think, they do use stereotypes, but I think it's such a ridiculous movie. They do it in a playful way. However, white people in this movie use the N-word.
Yeah.
And so that didn't have to happen.
I mean, it's not something that...
it was 40 years ago, this movie, but it wasn't cool then. No. But they did use it. And so that would be...
But they didn't use it in a way that... Well,
it wasn't a racist way. Because remember, he was at his house, and they were saying
that was because of that.
It was used in a racist way.
And then he said he was that.
Exactly.
And I mean, he wasn't being... racist.
No, he wasn't, but there was a character who was. So that's really, that would be the thing that people talked about. If this movie was released in 2019 as it is, they would say, really? Did you have to? But I think for the most part, and maybe people would disagree, I think because it's such a silly movie, the racial stereotypes were done in a playful way and not in a harmful way. There was no maliciousness until we got to that N-word where a person was being racist. But anyway, is it woke? Probably not, just because it is such a silly movie. Yeah. It's not woke in the way like Boys in the Hood is a woke movie. It is. But, okay, so anyway.
So we'll preview next week's show.
Sure.
We're going to try something new. We're going to compare a book to a TV series.
Right. So
that's based on the book.
The whole concept of this show was, we've all had these conversations before where you say, like, hey, have you seen The Jerk? No, I haven't seen it. What? I can't believe you haven't seen The Jerk, right? And that's a conversation that a lot of people have. Well, another conversation that people have when it comes to media is the book better than the movie or TV show that's based on the book?
And it usually is. The book generally is better.
For some people,
for me,
right?
Anyways.
For people who love to read, and we both love to read, but then there's some people who say, no, obviously the book is not better. Yeah, you can't watch a book.
They haven't read the book.
Right, exactly. So one thing we wanted to do was compare. And give our opinion and see if people agree with us. So we're going to start with a book that you and I both read and love called 11/22/63 by Stephen King.
Yes, great book. It's about the assassination of John F. Kennedy and
a man who figures out a way to go back in time and attempts
to stop it. So great book. Yes. You've seen the miniseries. I haven't. Right. James Franco's in it. I forget what the girl is.
It's a Canadian actress, actually. We'll have the details.
We'll get into all that.
It's been a while since I've seen it, but we are going to rewatch it. We've both read the book, and we're going to give our opinions. What do we think is better, the book or the TV miniseries that is based on the book? That is next week's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. For Brandon, for our producers Lucas, Joe, and Shelby, I'm Eryk, and I'd like to say thank you so much for tuning in to watch this.
See you next time.